afternoon and welcome to the Developer Show, a program where we showcase up-and-coming developments, talk investments, and how you can find yourself in the amazing Savile Row. My name is Chad and I'll be your host, and today we are joined by Bradley Fleming, who is the Head of Developments at Taito Developments. Bradley, thank you so much for taking some time out to join us.
Thank you, Chad.
So Bradley, what I wanted to ask you is the same thing I ask all the developers who come on the show, and that is, tell me about yourself, tell me about your team, and tell me what a potential buyer can expect if they decide to take this journey with Taito.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, as you know, we've been working together with private property guys for a bit of time now. I mean, it's a fantastic platform that we really feed off a lot, you know, just to get the buyers into their homes, and you guys do that. I mean, especially with what's happened in the last couple of months, it's been key for us to, you know, to get you guys on board. And I think, you know, everyone's been down in gloom, you know, with regards to the property market, but the interest rates, you know, I'll talk more a bit later, but we've absolutely, we've fed off everyone being at home in front, engaged in front of their PCs, you know, and yeah, it's never been so active online, and I think that's purely because people are sitting in front of their computers, where as before it was pretty much, you know, only at the office. Yeah, Taito's been around for about 14 years now. We started off, you know, small, having an opportunity in Bryanston, which we pretty much, our head offices have always been based in Bryanston, so that's the area in the market that we really like to, you know, to stay close to home. You know, we don't like doing developments too far away, because we've got a theory that we'd like to, you know, something we can get in our car and be there within 20-30 minutes, and that goes for our holding properties as well. It's just a more hands-on approach. You know, if it's too far away, it's not, you won't get that personal, you know, it's once a month maybe, you know, if it's a bit across the borders. But yeah, that's what we predominantly like to do here at Taito.
So now we were chatting offline, and you've mentioned to me that Taito is now split into two different entities, which is Taito Construction and Taito Developments. How does the fact that Taito could now possibly be responsible, or has always been, I'm definitely going to want to hear that from you, been responsible for the construction of these developments, how does that affect the end product the customer is going to get?
Absolutely. So, you know, in the old, when we say the old days, just 4 years ago, what we used to do is generally pretty much have an MD, which was our PM, which is our project manager. His name's Gareth Kemp, and now subsequently has gone into the MD role. And what we do is we'd outsource that to sort of construction companies, really. And, you know, what you're doing is you're just trying to manage, you know, you're still managing staff, because you've got their foremen, their brickies, their layers, their bricklayers. So what we then decided to do is actually form a company which is subsequently in-house, so we keep control of all of that. It was called Piva Construction, now it's actually going to be called Tyto Construction. It's in principle, it's just pretty much still outsourcing to the professionals. We don't own plant, so we don't own TLBs, and we've got the odd little Bobcat and things like that, but it's pretty much got the PMs. We've obviously increased our PM team to 4 guys, so PMs will run the sites with the different appointed contractors, and that's from base level right up to groundwork, brickwork, roofing, and it's ultimately outsourced anyway. But obviously with us doing it in-house, we keep those margins low, and obviously giving the clients the price it's, you know, competitive to the market. So
handling the construction internally not only allows you to reduce the price of your offering, which makes it more affordable, but I'm sure then you're the one-stop shop for everything. If somebody needs to possibly change something, can they speak to you about it, depending on the development? If they're looking for the bond, you're going to help them find that bond that's essentially customized for them. Is that something that they can look to you for as well?
Absolutely, you know, and that's what makes the huge difference. You know, obviously you've got plans that you've submitted, but when you've got the in-house guys that have literally found the land, you know, sat to the architects, gelled out all the best, you know, obviously been doing this for a few years now, sitting on show days. We don't actually, no offense to any agents out there, but we don't allow agents to actually sit at our show days. Because I've always had a theory that there's no one more passionate about selling your own property than yourself. Because you've chosen the tiles, you've chosen the finishes, you've done the layout that you believe works for the market. And I'm not saying I'm a property expert, but what I've done is I've just listened every single show day for the last 8 odd years on what people want, you know, in terms of sliding doors, stacking doors, Sculleries are important, ensuite bathrooms, baths and showers, you know, little key things like that. So yes, there are, and that's not tailor-made to everybody. So the odd client would want some changes done, and that's where the key magic, you know, comes in for us. Our PMs are on board. They know the products, and also they get those changes done. You know, it's not something that you just, you know, as a third company project management firm that you're trying to now, you know, trying to negotiate your way between architects, PMs, and now it's hands-on, and the PMs do the change straight away with the architect, and it's easily handled.
Can you introduce us to Savile Row? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, Savile Row is going to be our pretty much flagship development. We went a little bit, we pushed the boat out a little bit against the grain on what we normally do in terms of, we always try and keep, and I wouldn't say conservative, but we know a model that works. And with Savile Row, it was quite a unique development where it pushes the boat out in terms of the price. So we started, we had some entry-level units at 3.5. We only had 3 of those, and then we went over the 4 million rand mark. And the ceiling height on those, we had 5 of what I call the Rolls-Royce units. Those are your 4-bed with a maid's quarters at 330 square units at 4.8 million. It's still not, you know, there's some big, massive houses out in the Bryanston area, but that we found in a complex of 16 units at that price would really do well, and it has done really well for us.
Could you tell me where this development's located, and what was the thought process that you guys went through when choosing that location?
So it's in Bryanston, as I mentioned a bit earlier. We kind of like the Bryanston area, purely because it's close to Sandton CBD, and it's, you know, what we really like is that, you know, Bryanston, you can't go, you know, said old McDonald's saying location, location, location. And, you know, it's such a desired suburb to live in, and it's close to Sandton, and the prices are very competitive. And, you know, it's just been key for us to try and keep our developments in and around the Bryanston circle. And Savile Row is actually a nice indicator that I say to people is if you're active and you do the Bryanston park run, the turnaround of the park run is literally past our front gate. So it's on Devonshire Road, overlooking the Spruit down in Bryanston, in the heart of Bryanston.
Now this development is completed, correct?
It's not. We're looking at handing over in April.
You're looking at handing over in April. So what terms of customization can clients still expect in regards to this development? Are there options where they can change options or substitute? I mean, I've been to a show house with you, and you were, I mean, more than accommodating when I spoke about some changes in the bathroom. So what can they look towards in this development?
So just to quickly touch on the name, Savile Row was quite cleverly named by our marketing director, Chantal Constantino. What was very clever about what she did is we decided, because if you're paying 4.8 million rand for a product, we felt this is the high end in terms of what we do. And you need to, if you're going to be spending that type of money, you need to basically be able to almost like a full turnkey option where you get to choose your finishes. So Savile Row is a street in Mayfair, and as if you're well traveled, you'll know that it's a street that tailor-made, you can make a tailor-made bespoke suit in the street. You know, there's a whole row of shops. So we thought it was very important to use that name, because with this development of Savile Row, what you can actually do is from the first step into your house, from your tiling to your kitchens, to your cabinets, to your sanitary ware, to everything is tailor-made bespoke to you. You know, we've got a design studio on site that we've actually, next to our marketing studio, that we've actually set up with multiple options of tiles, kitchens, even paint colors. You know, we want people to choose your design bespoke to your niche, really, you know, and if you're paying that type of money, it's imperative that you can do that.
Painting an incredible picture. I wanted to ask you, how many units are in this development and how many units are available?
So as I touched on, it's been an absolute boom coming out of level 4, being able to just do viewings privately, one-on-one, which is absolutely key for us. Is we're unfortunately not at the show day level, because we're finding people are a bit still nervous to get out there. So we launched this development in September last year. We have sold 13 out of the 16. There's 3 left, and out of those 3, it's 2 of them. One is 4.1. That's number 14. Then I've got number 10, which is a 4.8 unit. And then I've got one more left. It's a 4-bed, and that's unit 1 at 4,250.
Okay. Can we talk about what amenities are available to the clients that purchase these units within the development and also within the units themselves?
So the key on Savile Row is we actually didn't go for any amenities, purely because, I mean, with a price like that, you want to try and keep your levies as low as possible. But the design of these houses allow you to entertain in that space. So you don't really need a swimming pool with a clubhouse, and it's really not tailored for that down in Savile Row, because you wouldn't need to with the clever design of these units, where it's an absolutely key open plan entertainment area. We're calling them great rooms on our plans, and you wouldn't need amenities, because also, amenities, I don't know if I'm old school in saying this, but for me, it just creates bad elements, and also it raises the levies. We try and pride ourselves on showing open cards what our levies sort of run at, and yeah, on a development like this, you're looking at about 3.6 for 3,600 bucks for the levies, and rates around 1.1. So that was the key, is to keep it around the 5,000 rand mark, just to try and keep it more affordable, from a bond repayment point of view.
Again, for many of our viewers that tune in every week, they'll see that there's this trend where all developers are looking to reduce amenities, because one, they find that a lot of people aren't using them, and two, the rates that you're paying, the levies, just high levies, it looks like those are things that customers are really paying a lot of attention to. How much truth is that?
No, it's absolutely spot on, Chad. You've got to be careful. It just sometimes it blows my mind how these smaller complexes have these crazy higher levies than I've ever seen, because it's cost that you're throwing in at unnecessary stuff, like a white elephant, a swimming pool and a clubhouse. We've done them in the past. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking anyone that does it, but again, it's an opportunity lost if you're putting a swimming pool opposed to a unit. So that's also a massive factor from a developing point of view. But it comes down to rands and cents and operational cost of these units. You're trying to keep everything as low as possible. And if you've got a clubhouse and a swimming pool that no one uses, you're paying for that every month. And the simple things, you might not be using it, but it still needs to look after the pool, the water, the chlorine, the cutting of the lawn, and all of the electricity of that, so everything adds up. So you spot on it. It is something that we've sort of steered away from now going forward.
Do low levies increase the viability of this development as an investment?
No, not really. Because remember, the golden rule about your investment unit is your ratio between your bond and your rent needs to be, I'm assuming you're bonding it, but irrespective if you paid cash, the ratio between your bond and your rental amount needs to be as close as possible. So that's so far, and then then the only thing really in your first year, what we try and do, so your first year that you've got the unit, if it's an investment unit, is in a perfect world, your tenant then pays for the bond, and then for the first year, you'll pay the rates and the levies, and then with the escalation in the second, and then ultimately in the third year, you pretty much, that's what I generally base my investment units on. About year 3, with the escalation of the rental, you then not putting your hand in your pocket to substitute any shortfall of that investment.
I really like what you've touched on there, and it's something we haven't heard before, and I'm definitely going to want to continue talking about investments after the break. But before we do take that break, could you tell me, who have you targeted this development towards?
So this development is key. We've done a lot of marketing strategy and focused on the Sandton area, because it's just off 12th up on Rivonia Road. So just not to go into too many details, but it's mostly the level of buyer that's buying here at Savile Row are your second home buyers. So I do have 1 or 2 first time home buyers, but those are the guys that are generally at the investment side of the banks. And then there's 1 or 2 key company owners that have bought into this development at the moment. We were targeting the Bryanston area, and Sandton ultimately, with the CBD being so close to Savile Row, is our buyers for this specific unit.
Well, on that note, I think it's time we're going to have a quick break, and we will be right back. Bradley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad.
So let's go back to the beaches where I always make you
afternoon and welcome back to the Developer Show. If you are just tuning in, I'm here with Bradley Fleming, who is the Head of Developments for Taito Developments. Bradley, thank you so much for taking some time out to join us today. I've been having such an interesting discussion with you, and we left on quite an interesting note about developments and the investments within them. So I wanted to ask you now, for a first-time buyer or maybe a second or third-time buyer who's looking to invest in property today, what kind of advice would you give them being a property investor yourself?
Chad, I'm going to give you a couple of golden rules that I always work off, and that's something that I've tried to always keep close to me in terms of not making an impulse buy. You know, what sometimes happens is you come across these properties that you're absolutely in love with, but you've got to be careful not to make an absolute emotional purchase on an investment unit specifically. Which is quite nice from a Taito perspective is I'm a firm believer of buying. I'll only buy from us. Not that I don't dislike any other products that developers are doing, but it's just, you know, I know what we're building. I know the quality we're building, and you know, a couple of golden rules I have along the lines of investment is, you know, if you're finding an opportunity to invest something, remember it's always the intention to find a tenant. And for me, a key factor is, you know, in a perfect world, the tenant must wipe out the bond in terms of the rent versus the bond debt. And the key is now, I'm not saying to you guys go around and lowball developers to make sure that it meets the market related rentals in the area, but is to make sure that when you're buying a product, do your research. Do your research on first of all the purchase price. You know, and the simple calculation is always, guys must always take the unit and divide it by the price. It's the size of the unit divided by the price is key. And do that, and the nice thing with your platform, Chad, is you can actually do that very quickly. Is you just do a market research for 1 to 1.5 million as an example. See what you're paying per square meter. You know, because that's also more important from a resale point of view. If you're buying something that's at 18,000 rand a square meter when it should be at 15, your capital growth's gone, and you don't want to do that. You want to enter the market with a bit of fat on the bone for yourself as an investor purchaser for when you want to sell that unit, and it might even work out in a perfect world where you sell it to your tenant. Then on the second, before you put any offers in, make sure that you've done your research on the rental for that area. You know, the rental market is massive at the moment, and what area, you know, just you've got to be careful on your areas, and also make sure that your areas rental is in line with what your bond's going to be. And if you have to throw in a bit of equity just to keep it, you know, just to keep it in line so that shortfall and gap is small enough, that is the key for me. And especially in the first year, I don't mind chipping in a little bit on the first year, but your second year, you must definitely be out in the clear in terms of the rent paying, covering the bond. And then in your third and fourth year, what happens then is you'll see if you find a good tenant that's with you for that period of time, escalation would have taken you over the line where you've covered your rental now is covering your bond, your rates, and your levies, and then that's an investment for you. Then you pretty much keep tabs on your tenant, make sure they're happy, and you know what? Sometimes don't be afraid to give a small escalation if you're covering your bond and your rates, because what's going to soon happen is, unfortunately, the market isn't growing as quick as we'd like it to grow in terms of the rental escalation. So if you've got a good tenant, I've done it. Hold the rental for a year, especially if you're not putting your hand in your pocket. Don't be afraid to be generous, because it'll come back by having a long-standing good tenant. And that's the key for me is, and if I've got a good tenant chipping away at the bond, I don't have to put any equity or any money in. That's where you want to get to ultimately from an investment unit.
Really, it's definitely been an enlightening discussion about this, and I think a lot of people tuning in are going to have some key takeaways from this. Talking about buying a property, what would be, to take me through the process of me buying or purchasing development through Taito?
Sure. I mean, we pride ourselves on putting a massive amount of work in before we launch a development, and by that I mean we've got a key fundamental backing of some investors, and those are all internal investors, all hands-on guys. All you'll either be in sales, in marketing, so we call them our little pots, and those are our pure investors. It's our CEO, our MD, myself, a couple of marketing ladies, and you know, that's the key is to make sure that your investors have money to invest and believe in what they're investing in. And going back, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we've put in enough equity to get us foundations boundary walls, a decent marketing platform to work off, go in with a bit of, we won't just throw a container onto a bare site. We'll do the boundary wall, we'll do the name, we'll market it on your platform on private property. And what we'll then do is do a launch. The launch then is ultimately to try and get your pre-sales, as you know, for the bank's funding. So the bank is always going to give you a prerequisite in terms of pre-sales. So if it's 30 units, they generally like to get about 15 units of pre-sale plus an equity of some equity funding from the shareholders, which we always do up front. So it's not throwing wasted money at, it's something that you're not backing, and you've got to back your product. And that's what we've always done. In touch wood, we've always managed to sell out before we've always finished. And that's the key for us, because if people are buying from us off plan and they come in there with the confidence that we back ourselves by building this beautiful gatehouse, and then putting all the infrastructure in terms of a show unit. What we've pride ourselves on is we've got these marketing containers, which are absolutely key for us. And what we do is, it's not to scale, but what we actually do is, if you've got a kitchen with a scullery, we'll actually build that in. Obviously a miniature version of it, but you'll get a good feel. Unfortunately, we understand it because we work with it every day. And it's key to show people, this is a scullery, these are the finishes, it's the quality of the finishes. And then also we'll do the bathroom on the other side, just to give people, this is the taps, because there's nothing built yet. So it's absolutely key for us to get that spot on, just to give as much insight to the development as possible.
On that note, can you tell me, is Savile Row full title or sectional title?
We only do sectional title. And we're big fans of sectional title, and that for many reasons. You've got your levies and so there's always somebody checks and balances. If you've got a managing agent, the funds are taken care of, insurances are taken care of, and also people debt collecting for the owners, which is massively important. And just the maintenance. We're so busy, Chad, in today's times. I don't cut grass, so for the sectional title managing guys to do that for you, electric fence issues, all little things that can come up. I think it's absolutely vital to go sectional title at the moment, especially where things are going. CCTV camera, security systems. You've got your little champions within your part, in your sectional title. You've got a security champion. You have the landscaping guys, and all the owners. It's a hands-on approach with the owners as well, because it's your biggest expense of your life. So to have that as a sectional title option for us is absolutely key.
So what I'm hearing is sectional title allows the owners to take more of a hands-off approach to the daily maintenance of the gardens and of the whole development itself.
Absolutely.
Because you've got the managing agents that deal with that.
Yeah, it's all run by a managing agent. And remember, on sectional title, what's absolutely key to remember is you've got massive, got a full list of rules that you've got to keep to, and that's just, when you buy this beautiful investment from us and it's looking magic, you then have to write to the body corporate to do any changes to that unit, and that's what we always keep it uniform, keep it straight, keep it simple. And if you don't have those rules and regulations, then you've got guys that potentially want to throw in LARPers. There's just too many variables to run away from you if you're outside of a sectional title scheme.
What other pros are there in choosing to purchase within a development over a normal freestanding house?
So just remember, the freestanding houses, the first thing that pops up in living in South Africa for us is, me and my better half are definitely advocates of living in schemes where it's complex living. The freestanding homes of today are just a massive security risk. Unfortunately, the old days of living in these big, massive 4,000 to 8,000 square urns are gone. Just from a massive safety point of view, affordability, running costs, operational costs to run these properties are huge. But just the main factor is in today's times, for me personally, is the security factor of living in a community within a section.
I think that's a huge question for everybody living in South Africa today is how good is the security and how safe are you going to feel in your home?
100%. And that's key. Hey? So what we will never jeopardize on is security, electric fencing, 24-hour security. You've got to have that, and you build it in on the levies, and we're happy to share any numbers that we put together on the levy schedule, but security is number one. It is unfortunately the highest contribution, the highest bidder to the levies, but it is, you have to allow for that, and keep that safety aspect. 24-hour security is massively important.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the expenses you never really want to skimp on. Really, being a construction company now as well as a development company, can you speak to me about how COVID has affected possibly the construction of your projects? And also, how has it affected the market, the buying market as well as the rental market?
Yeah, it's been challenging. You know, it's funny. With Taito, we've got a sister company called Cadence Holdings, which is that's our industrial units. You know, and in terms of the rental market within the Taito portfolio, the rentals have been fantastic. And I think it's just that perception. I might be wrong, and I'm not a professional in this, but I think it's when I say fantastic, is we've had one or two obviously naturally. A few tenants that have had some issues with obviously closing down businesses, and that's more related to the retail trade, only restaurants, things like that. But I think why there's been such an uptake and no stress from us in terms of the residents, I think it's because people are living there. It's their families are there, and it's a roof over their heads. Where we've struggled a bit on the industrial side of things is purely because people are not there and they weren't allowed to go there. So from a rental perspective, it's definitely picked up as well, because I'm finding a lot of people now are downscaling, risk averse. But then there's the people, I mean, I know we promised to just stick to Savile Row today, but the Taito group are very proud. We launched a development 3 weeks ago in an area called Ferndale, which is just literally on the border of Bryanston. And there were 64 apartments, and we literally sold out in a week. So that was something that we are blown away about in terms of the uptake on people buying. And the sentiment out there is, if you got, you know, if you're positive and you're willing to who launches straight after COVID, and we had to go for it because we backed our product. You know, we really thought that let's store it till September, and we're like, no guys, we got so much interest off your platform, Chad. We thought, let's go for it, and we literally sold it out in 1 week, which was fantastic. And the interest rate was a massive key factor, and the interest rate going across now back to Savile Row, which is our main focus for the day, is your bonds have come down with the interest rate. And look, it's going to eventually, as we can all guess, it will go back to where it was pre-COVID. Is you on a property in the price range that Savile Row is at, you could save 4,000 to 5,000 rand on your bond alone. So that automatically changes your whole, you know, and you take that advantage, you know, touch wood, it'll still be, it might not be 7%, but let's say it's 7.5% by February, you're still getting that benefit of 3,000 rand saving. People then obviously are that astute to their cash flow, that their increases are coming through, you know, things like that, bonuses in December, touch wood, everyone gets one. So there's things like that that are massively important at the moment. So sales for us have been fantastic. Since level 4, we've sold 6 Savile Rows, and it's purely people. Or there's some people that are doing fantastic, and they're bullish and they're positive, and they're carrying on, and they're taking advantage of the interest rate, which I've picked up has been phenomenal down at Savile Row.
Will you tell me, what's your favorite feature about Savile Row?
It has to be that great room. You know, if viewers would look at what I mean by the great room, is we've got this double beautiful volume with beautiful windows surrounding, and a double volume feel in the main area, which we've actually labeled as our great room. And that is the days of, you know, the kitchen being hidden and you don't see anybody is gone. It's all a beautiful open plan living now with double volume ceilings, fireplace built in, stacking doors onto the patio. So for me, that would be hands down the biggest factor for me at Savile Row, is that entertainment, almost like a hall. It's such a beautiful space with natural light coming in, and that's hands down what people absolutely love. If you take a look at the video, I wanted to sell up everything I have and go and buy a house at Savile.
I have to admit, I do agree. Between the fireplace and knowing that you've got such nice open spaces around with sunlight streaming in, it is such a nice thing to come home to. Brady, I want to move forward and just say your company has had a relationship with private property for quite a while now. And can you just touch on how it's helped your marketing going forward?
Yeah, it's absolutely key, Chad. You know, times have changed. You know, where you drive around, you look for boards and you pop your head in. Now everything's online. You'd be crazy not to have your products on your platform. And it's like I touched on earlier. Everyone now is more, especially now with what we're going through. Everyone's engaged and online and on their PCs and on your phone. So it's important to be on the social media aspect, you know, and everything's done now on your mobile or on your PC. So it's absolutely imperative for us to have our properties with you and to feature those listings and to, you know, let the purchasers know that we'll be back on shows on Sundays. And it's so important. And it's up to us, you know, because those leads come flying in, and it's up to us on how we sell them, you know, and get them onto site and show them. You know, I always say to people, I'm not a salesman. I just go and show you what we've done. And you know, a purchasing of a house like Savile Row is a gut feel. I can't even throw money at the situation. When you walk in there and you love the feel and the design and what we've done, and your gut tells you that you're going to be living in this house, that's when you're going to buy it. You know, when somebody says, you know, when a couple come through and I don't say a word. I say, would you like me to shadow you? Or please, I'm here if you've got any questions. And as soon as they start shifting furniture in their minds, where would we put our L shape? And where would we do this? And then you know straight away that they engage and they can picture themselves living in this development. And that for me is absolutely key, is pretty much is getting that feel from clients. And you know, and it's massively important to feed off your guys' platform, because you bring the buyers to us.
And we definitely do enjoy working with you. Bradley, thank you so much for taking some time out and joining us. I really do appreciate it. I just want to implore all the viewers to jump onto Private Property and take a look at what Taito and Bradley are offering. Savile Row is not the only thing they've got there, but it is one of the nicest things they've got there. And thank you so much for logging on and taking this journey with us. Please, if you've got any questions, drop it in the comments. I want to go through them personally and answer all of them. And Bradley, just thanks again. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been I'm not really someone for behind the camera, but it's been okay. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to having you on again.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. We'll be on in a couple of weeks.
Definitely. For everybody at home, thank you so much and goodbye.
Thanks, Chad.